Hello, my name is Ramarjan Dexit, and welcome to my TRC Calls to Action video presentation. Before we start, I would like to first acknowledge this land we're on, and I don't want this to be like simply tokenism, as we've learned in King 306 of how bad tokenism is. So I want to relate it to myself. So I'm an immigrant from this country, and first moving here, I never knew anything about Canada and what's the history about this land. And when I first moved here, people were saying to be like be aware of the indigenous people and keep watch on them, and I never really understood why. But now that I've learned more about the history of the indigenous people, I would like to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 6 territory, the homeland of the Métis, and I pay respect to First Nations and Métis ancestors of this land. And like if people like visited Philippines where I grew up and they did not respect that place, that would seriously hurt me too. So it is important to acknowledge this land is the homeland of the indigenous people. And first, I would like to give you of an overview of what I'll be talking about. So first thing first, I would talk about the call to action I'm addressing, and then second, why it's important to me. Third, how the activity I attended relates to the calls to action. Fourth, and how it ties to our class in 306. And lastly, something new I learned that may influence me in the future. So the calls to action I'm addressing is sports and reconciliation, and in that there's one, two, three, four, five. There's five ideas, I guess, and it's number 87 to number 91. And I'd summarize the five. The first one is like about providing public education about the history of the Aboriginal athletes and like telling their story. And then the second one is about funding, such as funding the indigenous games. The third one is just about policies promoting physical activity, that it's acknowledging it as a fundamental element of health and well-being, and reducing barriers to sports participation, as well as being inclusive of Aboriginal people. And then the fourth one is for policies, programs are again inclusive of Aboriginal people, and through all things such as collaboration with provinces and territorial governments, stable funding, programs for coaches, anti-racism awareness, like athlete developments, and a lot more other things about sports. And then lastly is international sporting events such as like the Olympics, Commonwealth Games, to ensure that the indigenous people and the territory are respected, and the indigenous communities are engaged in all the plannings. And then I'll move on to the second one. Why is this calls to action important to me? I am a person who is very passionate about sports, and I also hope to become a teacher and a coach in the future. I want to inspire my students. And in my life, sports have made a very significant impacts. Like I couldn't imagine being here now and pursuing becoming a teacher if it wasn't for sports. And moving to this country was very difficult at the start. It was hard to find a place to fit in, and through sports, I found a place, and I found great friends. I found my career choice. I found a sense of belonging and family, and I think that's the most important thing, is finding a sense of belonging, and that allows us to like embrace our identity. And through sports, I was able to learn a lot of valuable values like leadership, compassion, teamwork, camaraderie, and having like a strong will to persevere through adversities. And I believe it's important for sports and reconciliation to be addressed, and I think it has a great impact in the growth and the wellness of the future of indigenous communities, like the future of the children and the students and athletes. Um, yeah, because going back, like in my high school days, when I competed, I noticed that I the indigenous individuals I competed against, I could tell that they have the same passion as I do towards sports, and it saddens me that they're not given the same opportunities and same empathy and compassion, and that just angers me, and it brings me great discomfort, as I believe that sport should be equal. And next thing, I would like to talk about how uh, the activity I attended relates to the calls to action. So beforehand, I was hoping to attend the Harry Bailey Aquatic Center, where they hosted a free swim, and they wanted to address the calls to action number 89 about creating health and well-being opportunities by reducing barriers to sports participation. I would have loved to attend that because that actually directly impacts the calls to action I'm addressing, but I couldn't attend, sadly. But I did attend the Kiskasuan, if I'm pronouncing it right, the Kiskasuan Candlelight Smudge Walk, which it happened September 30th. And it was like a 2.2 kilometer walk that started at the Kiwanis Memorial Park, which is, it kind of relates to the calls to action because it is promoting physical activity. And it was a 30 minutes walk, and it was a bunch of us just paying respect to the communities who were affected by the residential schools, the families who were affected. And yeah, so the walk, like, I guess it was more than a walk. It was more than just a physical activity. It's more of just like a togetherness and like like uh, like working together to get somewhere. And I think that's a step. Like, there's a lot of people who actually attended. I was shocked. I've never been into things like this. And how does and then number 4, like, how does this tie with the Kin 306? So in Kin 306, we've talked about how the obesity rates with indigenous people are increasing, and it's in a bad state. And it's not, we learned that it's not about just genetics. It's a lot of other predispositions, and nurture has a lot to do with it. It's not just nature. And that's why I believe it's important to address sports and reconciliation, because I truly believe that it it can help solve the health of the indigenous people if they can find the passion for it. And the second thing that we've been learning about a lot is the intergenerational trauma and the wisdom of trauma by like Mate. And it's, I think that's very important to learn, that the trauma, it doesn't discriminate and it affects everyone. And but it really affects indigenous people, and it's very debilitating, and it's hard to embrace your trauma and change it to something more productive. And I believe that through sports and through me being a teacher and a coach, I hope I could nurture students who can see their trauma as something that can make them better as a person overall, and something to motivate them, as well as create a group of people who will create strong bonds together and help each other out. Because the biggest thing about trauma is finding a sense of belonging, or sense of that someone is there, like, to care for you and understand you. And I think through sports, where you can really connect with another, I think we could address the trauma and hopefully help it a little bit. And then lastly, something new I learned that may influence me in the future. So I'm hoping to become a teacher, and something that I've learned is that the discrimination against indigenous people is very deep rooted, and it's very difficult to make significant steps and difference. And I keep wondering why it's so hard, because coming from Philippines, we were able to decolonize and find reconciliation, and I keep trying to understand why we're not able to do it here in Canada. And I think one thing that I noticed and learned and seen from the Truth and Reconciliation Day is that I feel like that most of the older generation are too, like, brainwashed to see the reality. They're oblivious and will continue to neglect facts about what is happening to the minorities of this country. Like, it's crazy, but I do have hope, because I feel like our generation are becoming more educated. The upcoming generation, I think, will be more educated. Social media is huge, and I can see people posting a lot and really spreading awareness. And I'm proud of my generation and the younger generation of doing that. And I look forward to becoming an educator, and I really want to nurture compassionate students and students who see the realities of this country and make steps forward towards the betterment of this our society, and hopefully find the truth and reconciliation. And that's all I have to share. And this is the things I've learned, and I hope you have learned something from it too. Thank you.